Can the Seattle Seahawks get enough out of their supposedly elite wide receiver core to have success in 2024? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good morning. We have more Seahawks predictions today. And today we are moving on to a category where the Seahawks should do very well. We're talking about pass catchers, which is obviously mostly wide receiver. You've obviously got a little bit at tight end. You've also got to consider running back stuff. There's a little bit more going on than just receiver, but if you're talking about wide receiver, the Seahawks supposedly have some of the best in the league. Whether it's a wide receiver duo, wide receiver trio, or a wide receiver quartet, almost every Seahawks fan is feeling really, really good about where the Seahawks sit here. Now, obviously, you have a new offensive coordinator. You don't know how he's going to feel about some of these guys. So it's going to be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters to us as fans is it good? Is it productive? And with this amount of talent, the ultra-talented DK Metcalf, the slot wizard JSN, and the veteran wily of Tyler Lockett combined with the talent of Noah Fant, the third down back ability of a Charbonnet, and also guys like Walker, Bobo, Pharaoh Brown, there should be some way to make this work really, really well. So this is definitely going to be one of the strong spots of this team, and getting stellar results from this group is going to be the main reason why, if this team is successful this year, that they are. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the numbers, but real quick, I want to ask everybody, please like this video if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, click the bell if you want notifications, consider becoming a member, costs $2 a month, and yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in, starting with the top guy on this team, still the number one receiver on this team, DK Metcalf. I don't think that's going to change this year. Receptions, I ended up going with 84. Obviously, last year, there were some limiting factors on Metcalf's ability to make a lot of catches. I think that this year, there's a little bit more of an understanding of how to work around some of the issues that this offense had last year and may continue to have this year. I think that there will be more of a utilization of him in the middle of the field, and with that should come more production. So I do think he'll catch more passes than he has in the most recent season, at least. And I think that'll come with a pretty decent number of yards. I went with 1,106, which is obviously not an all-pro result, maybe not even a Pro Bowl, depending on the year. But when you're on a team with a receiver group that's this deep and also has some investments in other pass-catching positions, you're not going to make a ton of hay as a receiver. You're not going to put up all-pro numbers when you've got other players on this team that need to eat as well. And also, we should have at least a somewhat better defense this year, so there will be less need to throw the ball, which means less opportunities for Metcalf to put up big stats. Yards per reception, that comes out to 13.17. Obviously, Metcalf is a phenomenal deep threat. Obviously, Metcalf is somebody you want to utilize running go routes, running 9 routes, going deep down the field. I don't know how much we're going to be able to do that. We'll obviously be able to do it some, because if you're not letting DK do that, at least some of the time you're wasting him. But I don't think it's going to be some over-the-top, like 16 yards per reception thing, because we may not have the offensive line for it. And I came out with 10 touchdowns. Pretty normal Metcalf season. I think it'll do enough to restore his faith in him as a number one receiver for this team that could be here for a long time if we want him. But it won't be enough to make him some all-pro type top 3 receiver that some people seem to insist that he needs to be. So it's a Rorschach painting. Read into it how you will. Next, I have JSN. And last year, I ended up saying that JSN would be the second most prolific receiver on the team. I was a little bit ahead of schedule, although JSN did play very well and Lockett did fall off. So I'm going to say it happens this year. I think JSN's production will pass Lockett by Not a huge amount, but a non-trivial amount. I think JSN's skill set fits in very well with the offense that I believe Ryan Grubb will implement. So I gave him 75 catches, which, I mean, it doesn't seem unreasonable. There are slot receivers out there that make well over 100 catches a year. I'm not expecting that. I'm also not expecting a ton of yards from him because I think a lot of his catches will be shorter, just trying to pick up first downs, just trying to keep the offense on schedule. So I went with 875. Might seem a little bit low, but I don't expect him to be some downfield threat the way that a guy like DK Metcalf will be. I ended up coming up with 11.67 yards per reception. So, yeah, it works. It's good enough. And for touchdowns, I went with 7. So, it's not going to be some monster JSN breakout season, but it's going to be a nice little improvement over what we had from him last year, and he'll be good enough for us. All right, moving along to a guy who's been here for a long time now and saw finally his production fall off just a little bit last year for a few different reasons, I think. I don't think it was just all him, but his production finally kind of leveled out last year. I think he'll continue a slow descent into effectiveness, but I do think that by the end of this year, there will be a pretty significant discussion around whether or not he should retire. And I kind of expect him to retire, not because he'll be so bad he can't play anymore, but I just don't think he's the kind of guy who wants to have some 15, 16-year career. I think that he'll be like, I played 10 good years, I'm good. So I do think this will be Lockett's last year in the NFL. And I think it'll be pretty good. I had 56 catches for him. You know he's going to find a way to get open. You know he's going to find a way to run good routes. You know he's going to find a way to get things done. Just under 700 yards. 12.48 yards per reception. You know he's going to catch at least a couple of deep balls, which, you know, every year it gets tougher and tougher for him to do that kind of stuff because the margins are getting so thin, but he keeps finding ways to do it. And I went with 4 touchdowns. I do think the touchdowns are going to dry up a little bit for him. I think this is going to be the year that really starts to fade. I think you're going to start looking at other players in the red zone. I think you're going to start looking at other players around the end zone. But still a good year, and we're going to feel really happy that we got to watch Lockett play football for the last decade at the end of this year. Next, we have Noah Fant, our number 1 tight end, and quite simply, if we gave Noah Fant that contract without a plan to utilize him more and utilize him more effectively and actually make him a notable part of this offense, that's pretty bad. So I'm expecting significant things from Noah Fant this year for sure. Not all pro numbers. I'm not expecting a Travis Kelce, or I'm not expecting Sam Laporta, but 54 catches. I think that's perfectly within reason. 621 yards. I'm not even expecting him to be some great downfield threat. I'm not expecting him to get open 30 yards down the field and catch 80-yard passes like some of these tight ends do. I'm just expecting him to be a pretty good possession guy. You know, you can give him like 11.5 yards per catch. I think that would be totally fine. I got no issue with that whatsoever. It's just a significant improvement over what we saw last year. And you combine that with the 5 touchdowns, helping us out in the red zone significantly, I think, with his ability to make plays in the end zone. I think that we'll come away from the season feeling like, hey, I think he earned his contract. We're not going to feel great about the 2025 cap number, but the 2024 cap number, no problem. All right, now we have, I think, our most prolific pass-catching running back is going to be Charbonnet. Gave him 30 catches. I don't want to go too far with it. I don't think he's going to be on the field for like every third down. Excuse me. And also on this team, I don't know how much the running backs in general will be used to catch passes. Maybe like 4 a game or so. So I don't think it's going to go crazy. I don't think he's going to turn into like Austin Eckler here. But he's a good pass catcher. I don't think he's going to break a lot of big plays. I think it's going to be a lot of safety valve dump off stuff for like 3 yards, 4 yards. And he doesn't have the breakaway speed to make one guy miss and then just race to the end zone like Walker could. So I went with 198 yards, which is obviously pretty low. That's 6.6 yards a carry, but he'll do his job. And I went with 0 touchdowns. Ken Walker, I said 25 catches. So fewer catches. I do think he'll get more yards, though, because he does have that breakaway ability. There's going to come a play, kind of like against the Commanders last year, where he catches a screen pass, makes a couple guys miss, and he's just gone. Charbonnet won't be able to do that, so you will see a better yard per reception average from him, 8.84, but I still don't think it's going to be some massive part of this offense. I don't think he's going to be breaking any kind of records as a pass catcher or nothing. I think he'll be good. I think he'll be fine, and for the most part, he's on the field to get handoffs, and that's fine. And I also went with no touchdowns for Ken Walker as a receiver. All right, Jake Bobo, this is going to hurt some feelings. I think Bobo's usage goes down a little bit this year. I think that when you bring in a guy like a Noah Fant on that contract, you're obviously planning to use him more. And I also think that Bobo's bigger impact this year will be as a blocker. He might be on the field as much as he was last year, but I think he will be utilized more as a blocker because that's his best skill. And hopefully this year we'll actually be able to run the ball more because our offense isn't forced to go pedal to the metal the whole game because the defense is actually competent. So a guy like Bobo will continue to be a valued part of this offense, but I think his receiving numbers go down a little bit. I went 14 catches for 167 yards, which comes out to just under 12 yards per catch, and I gave him 1 touchdown. We're definitely getting to the point where it's really hard to predict things, but I just don't think that with the setup of this current team, it's likely that Bobo sees an increase over last year in pass catching production. I think it goes the other way. All right. So now we get down into the guys who are just kind of picking off the little bit that's left. Guys like Pharaoh Brown. I have him getting 9 catches. It's not really his game, not really his skill set, and I think we're going to kind of silo it. By which I mean, I think that Noah Fant's going to be the pass-catching tight end, and Pharaoh Brown's just going to pick off whatever little bit is left over, maybe random opportunities to, like, get open on a scramble drill. 9 catches, 100 yards. That's 11.1 yards per catch. No touchdowns. I just think that we're going to kind of keep him to the blocking assignments, and I think that we're going to recognize that catching passes is not really his game. Kenny McIntosh, this is where his skill set could be really interesting. I still just don't think there's going to be an opportunity to get McIntosh the ball very much. I went with 7 catches for 63 yards, which comes out to 9 yards per catch and 0 touchdowns. So when you've got receivers like we do, and you've got a prolific tight end like we do, and you've got 2 other running backs that need to see the field a lot because you have that investment in them and you know how good they are, I don't know how much time you have left to get creative with a guy like McIntosh, who could be a very fun player, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not going to sit here and expect them to find a way to get the ball to everybody. D. Eskridge, I think, makes the team, so he'll catch some passes at some point. I went with 2 for 35 yards. That's 17.5 yards per carry, no touchdowns. A.J. Barner, he's a rookie. He's a third-string tight end, so I'm not expecting much from him. 2 catches, 8 yards. Probably, he might come in like during Sam Howell garbage time just to get his feet wet. So 2 catches, 8 yards for him. Also had Laviska Shenault Jr. get 1 catch. I think he's mostly here for special teams. 9 yards and no touchdowns. And the final guy is Halani. I'll say he catches a pass at some point, picks up 3 yards, and that does it. So that's what I see from our pass catchers this year. And if you want to take a look at the totals, they do match exactly what I had for our quarterbacks in terms of completions, yards, and touchdowns. So it does mathematically make sense. And I think the spread is good. I don't think anybody would be terribly upset with this. I think this makes sense in the context of the talent we have and the offense we should be running. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me know what you think down below. Anything you radically disagree with, anything you would change, let me know. And more videos coming soon. But that is my prediction for Seahawks pass catchers for 2024. Go Hawks.